good evening, everyone. My name is Jody Lynn Waterlove. I'm Anishinaabe Kwe from the Munsee Delaware Nation, which is a small First Nation, southwestern Ontario. I'm also a senior lawyer working with the Honourable Justice Michael Tulloch, who is the independent reviewer for the Street Checks Review. And we are here tonight in Sudbury to hear your thoughts on a very important issue. But before we begin, I would like to begin by acknowledging the land in which we're gathered tonight. It's the Robinson-Huron Treaty Territory and the traditional territory of the Tikamekshin and the Anishinaabe. So we want to be mindful and recognize the contributions of the Indigenous peoples of North America, both First Nations, Inuit, and Métis, because the contributions have shaped and strengthened this community, the province, and the country. And by acknowledging that, we're recognizing and respecting the First Peoples of this country. It's also in recognition of their presence and contributions both in the past and the present. So in order to build that respectful relationship, our review is acknowledging the traditional territory in which we're gathered, so thank you. So before we begin and outline what this evening is about, I'm going to ask Justice Tulloch to come in and say a few words.
Just give me a second. Okay, thank you so much, Joe Lynn, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming out and meeting with us this evening. As Joe Lynn has indicated, this is our very last public meeting. This is the 12th of 12 of these meetings, and I can indicate to you that I've been in Sudbury before, and I just love the city. It's a beautiful, very spacious, or very large land mass of a city, and we've heard lots of positive things about the city, so we're here to hear what your thoughts are on the issues that we're asked to look into, the issues of police interaction with the public. As indicated, I am an independent reviewer. I was asked by the Ontario government to review a regulation which regulates police public interactions. And as such, I have been going around the province to get feedback from various individuals from our various communities who may have something to say on this particular issue. Now, I'll be reviewing the content of the regulation, and each of you have some information on your tables, and shortly after I finish speaking, Danielle Dowdy, one of my advisors, will be speaking to you about the logistics of how this evening's session will unfold and what you are to do with the information that's on your table. But what I'm asked to do is to review the regulation and to see whether it reflects the important goal of ensuring bias-free police community interactions. And I also want to see whether or not the public and police interactions are consistent and conducted in ways that promotes public trust, public safety, and public confidence, while at the same time respecting individual rights and civil liberties. Now, I will also be reviewing the regulation with a view to determine whether or not police services, which includes the police chiefs, police services boards, to see whether or not they're compliant with the terms of the regulations and are following it. Now, throughout this process, I will be conducting a very comprehensive review to see whether or not the regulation in and of itself is doing the job that the government had intended for it to do. Now, in order to assist me in this regard, I put together a team of experts, some of whom are here, to help me to do this review. And throughout these meetings, we're going to be gathering the information that you give to us to inform us on what recommendations we should be making to report back to the government. So we're really relying on you to participate in this process. And we can assure you that if you do participate, your input will have value, and it will be reflected in the end result of our consultative process, which will be a report that will be put in together at the end of November of this year, and we'll be submitting it to the government shortly thereafter, and they will be making it public sometime before January of 2018. So again, I want to thank you for coming out. I want to thank you for taking the time to meet with us, and I want to thank you for participating in this process.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I'm just going to run through how this evening's going to work really quickly. Avant qu'on commence, si vous voulez écouter en français, il y a des écouteurs à l'arrière de la salle. So, thank you for coming this evening. My name is Danielle Dowdy, and I'm with the Review. And this is our last of 12 public consultations. So we've been right across the province, and we've heard from all kinds of Ontario, all kinds of folks of different communities and stakeholders, and it's been a really wonderful experience. We also, on our website, we do have a community survey. So if you visit www.streetchecksreview.ca, you can take our survey, because part of our review is also collecting the actual data. And so it'll be very helpful if you go to our website and take the survey. So the way that this works this evening is that we want to hear from you, and we want to hear your thoughts on police street checks. We want to hear about your interactions with police. We want to hear your experiences and your recommendations on how to improve the regulation. Just as a disclaimer, the regulation does not deal with individual cases. So if you have a personal experience, we would love to hear from you, but we're not able to then resolve that situation for you. But it is helpful to us because it's going to inform our report and the information that we have in our report. So I'm just going to conclude this introduction right after this. You have some materials at your table. If you're sitting at a table and you're only two individuals, perhaps the two of you and the three of you could join to make a group, because this part is a group exercise. So what we want to do is have folks work together through the questions that are on the table. You'll see that there's a notepad, there are pens there. If one person can write what others are saying, and then at the end of that process, we'll have a little bit of time for you to let us know what your discussions were, and you can share your feedback, your recommendations, and anything else that you would like for us to know. And so we are on social media. We're tweeting under the hashtag, we tweet and post under the hashtag StreetChecks. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're also, this is on Facebook Live, so our cameraman at the back of the room, if you could just wave. So if you don't want to be on camera, that's where the camera is. So make sure to avoid the camera. But if you want to go back and have a watch of this or any of our meetings, they're all on our Facebook account. And if you see us taking pictures, it's just because we're tweeting. Feel free to go on our account to see the pictures that we've taken. If you don't want your photo taken, not an issue at all. If you see myself or my colleague Prasanna at the back of the room, or Peter, Peter also has a camera, and you don't want your photo taken, just let them know, and they will move right along. And that's it.
What was the Facebook page, sorry?
So it's right up here. So it's Street Checks Review is the name of our group. Yeah, so we'll leave this up for anyone that's into social media, so you can hop on any one of the accounts there. And again, our website is streetchecksreview.ca. And if you leave this evening and there's some thoughts that you still want to share, feel free to send us an email, info@streetchecksreview.ca. Thank you so much, and we can just get right into the exercise there. And feel free to take food as well. It's a working discussion. Thank you.
But some people have to leave, and we want to be respectful of your time, and it is coming close to 8 p.m. So we're going to ask that each table has their spokesperson who's going to speak on behalf of the table and give us your feedback of what was discussed. So we're going to start with this table over here. Danielle's got the mic. So we're going to let the person who's speaking report back to the group. So we'll start with the back table.
I'm on the mic. What would you like me to describe? I guess everybody's life sucks over here.
Well, I was sitting at your table for most of the session, so I think if you could share with us some of the thoughts about street checks or carding.
I guess, I will start with the first question. What was it? Okay, so nobody knew what the hell the street checks were. We all thought that meant ride checks at first, but I don't know. Obviously everybody's been around here that's been here, I would assume, has been falsely accused of incriminating bullshit and then had to sit in court every week for 2 months or 3 months at a time, and it sucks. Mm-hmm. And somebody should do some shit about that. And I don't really understand, everybody's got a problem, or an addiction or whatever like that. And obviously Sudbury's really bad, but to put people in jail for to check them for drugs and shit like that, and we were discussing that earlier, and it just doesn't seem like it's benefiting anybody in that aspect. Maybe get them help. I don't know. I'm not no teacher or anything like that, so I'm just representing these guys because they didn't want to go up.
Yeah. Does anyone else at the table have anything to add?
Not really.
Yeah,
I do, treat guy.
Behind you.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I haven't been ID before, so.
Oh, pass the mic there. He's featuring this guy.
So, I'm just going to tell about the experience that happened with me. So me and my brother, we were walking one night, and out of nowhere we were carded. And when I asked for the reason, I wasn't given any because apparently there wasn't any. And then I was told about, I asked, is something wrong? I wasn't given anything that could help me with why I was carded. And then when there was nothing wrong, and when we were on our way, he literally asked us if we had anything in our pockets. I said, no, you can check. And then that was nothing either. And the thing is, when you're being carded for no reason at all, and the way they talk and the way they're doing it, it makes you feel as if you've done something wrong, as if you are a criminal, even though you're not. I was okay, but my brother's not as cool, as calm as me. He was really scared and he was really petrified. Also, we just found out now that when you're carded or when you have a street check, you're supposed to get a ticket that mentions that you were carded, the badge of the officer and everything that mentions the date and the time. But I wasn't given any of that either, so something's not right. And one point I mentioned before was that the police, they do go after the bad people, and there are reasons for that. But they go after the good people, I believe, is because it's easier to do that. And there's just no reason. It's just easier. And that's all I have to say for tonight.
Thank you. Okay.
Just because like that actually bring me back to something I was like gonna say, like it's not just also racism and like you know like a lot of cops are, you know, like everybody knows like one cop that's racist. Like it's actually like discrimination against people. Like there's like fucking haters against gay people and shit like that. I'm not gay or anything, but like I dress wherever way I want to fucking dress, and like people judge people like all the time. Whether they dress like a fucking gangster or a punk, you know what I mean? Like, and I always thought that was an issue growing up because people put me in that stigma too, you know. And I've dealt with the law like pretty much my whole life, so like, yeah, I think that's a definite issue. Judgmental fucks. Sorry for my language.
Let's try to keep the language respectful, okay? Okay. Is there anything else from that table before we move on? Okay, we'll move on to the next table, Danielle, which will go from the back and work our way forward.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. We are just here to get some information over here. We are the students over here. We have not been to Canada since in the September only we came here, and we are finding some interesting thing, and we are getting good things, and what are the things going on, and what should we keep in our mind. So we are here to get some informations, and it's enjoyable, and we are getting some information over here. So thank you very much for this program.
Thank you. We'll go to the next table.
Sorry.
Oh, is there more from the table? Sorry, go ahead.
Hello everyone, good evening. I would still I had not given my G1 exam yet, like I'm planning to give soon. So like I hadn't gone through that kind of like experience yet, but I want to know, like in my country, back in India, like there are rumors a lot, like these kind of street checks police officers did like for like what to say, like without any reason. That kind of cases is also happening here, or like we got a really nice image of police officers over here, like they never do like anything without reason, right? So like it is a same scenario here or a different scenario here?
So if you want information about street checks or carding, you can go on our website and there's information on your table. But
Okay.
we're here tonight to hear about people's interactions with police when it's street checks or carding.
Okay.
So I know you arrived late at your table.
Yeah, exactly.
And we broke,
I just arrived.
Yeah.
I just came to know from my roommate. I just
Yeah.
came back from college and
Yeah. So what we've done is we've asked people at tables to discuss their experiences with street checks or carding, whether they've had them or not, their views on street checks or carding, and then each table is to report back. So
Okay.
someone from your table spoke, which I believe the gentleman behind you did.
Okay.
But we can certainly talk to you afterwards
Yeah, I would love
about
to.
street checks or carding and what it means and to provide you the resources there.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we'll come forward to the next table. Okay, Go ahead.
We're just here observing. We represent some police associations, so we are police officers. So I can only speak from past experiences when I was working the road, which is over 3 years ago now, before the legislation came into effect. I never really had any negative interactions with people, but what I can say as a result of the new legislation, with the receipts and how police officers have to identify themselves with their badge number and how they can be complained about, it leads to a negative confrontation right off the bat. And I haven't been through the new training because I've been off the road now for over 3 years, but I have heard that the training of the new legislation piece was very rushed at the time of getting it, because it was coming into effect in January of
Right.
2017. There was issues with training. But I do know, in speaking with a lot of police officers that we represent,
Yes.
as a police association, a lot of police officers that were proactive in the past have now become reactive.
Yes, if I can add to that, we as a review have met with various police services across the province, as well as we've heard from the associations. So we have the police perspective on the issue, so I appreciate you sharing your thoughts and experiences as a police officer and those of your colleagues. Tonight, we're here to hear about the public experiences with street checks or carding. So if no one else has any thoughts on that, we'll move right along to the next table. I think that would be the first table here.
So I think we had a bit of more of a lengthy conversation at our table than some other people did. So I'll try to go through
Okay.
everything that we talked about. Mostly everybody at our table had heard of carding or street checks before, but there was sort of varying definitions about what that meant for people and in what circumstances they thought carding was acceptable or not acceptable. But we did discuss the targeting of individuals based on their race, the neighborhood that they live in, any like the color of their skin or their history, or sometimes the officers already know who they are, even though they're stopping them and they're just confirming things and trying to sort of drive up business. So that's kind of the conversation that we had. Are you aware of the new regulation that came into effect? Most of us were not aware of it or very vaguely aware of it. Do members of the public know enough about the regulation? I don't think members of the public know anything about the regulation, if anything at all. I work for a nonprofit organization whose sole purpose is to help people that are in conflict with the law, and I can share I don't know enough about it, and I'm running this organization. So I think there could be a lot more work to educate frontline staff as well as individuals who are most likely to be affected by it. And we had a conversation about the way that you reach people if you want to educate the people that are most likely going to be affected. So sometimes doing information sessions aren't likely to get the people out that you need to talk to. And so we talked about reaching out to and attending at the community organizations within that community that work with those vulnerable populations, going to the people rather than trying to get the people to come to you. Most of the people that we work with on a daily basis, they're trying to figure out where they're going to sleep tonight or where their next meal is coming from. So for them to plan to attend things at a certain time, it's tough. Do we think that street checks or carding have benefits when it comes to public safety? We had a bit of a discussion about it, and our sort of consensus was no, there really isn't, because you're sacrificing the rights of individual people. And oftentimes what happens there is, even when the officer is successful in kind of figuring out that person has committed a crime, they're laying charges, it's not increasing public safety. Like removing that person from the street and arresting them and putting them in custody at that point is not increasing public safety. And in fact, it's costing, so much money to have people in custody and being arrested on charges when they're not really in that circumstance. Even if they are guilty of an offense, they're not a risk to public safety most of the time. So they're drug-related offenses, they're poverty-related offenses that these people are being charged with. Well, that's a debate for another time, I think. So we also had a discussion about if anyone had been stopped in the last year. There was an example that was given, and it was a really good example of, it seemed like an arbitrary stop that didn't make much sense. We talked about the receipt. I have never heard of anyone receiving a receipt for being stopped or carded. We often get people coming into our office talking about feeling like they're being followed by police talking to them, police sometimes knocking on their door, looking at bail compliance, what they're saying, but I've never heard of anyone receiving a receipt. Anything I missed, you guys? Oh, we also talked about the database, and we honestly could not come up with a good reason of why, if a police officer stops someone and they haven't found in that circumstance that they're involved in a criminal offense, what reason do they have to keep that information and what good reason that information could be used for. We couldn't come up with it at our table. So I know you're not here to provide that information, but and then we sort of the last thing that we came up with is we don't think that they should be keeping that information, but if they are keeping the information, that information should have to be released to the public so the public can see who is being targeted in these street checks.
Okay. Thank you. So I think give the mic back to Danielle. Yes? Yeah. I think this.
Yeah, just to add a bit more. With my experience years ago, around 2008, 2009, I was targeted by police all the time due to the disabilities aspect of it all. There's racial aspect. There's also disabilities aspect of it as well. Whether it's physical, mental illness, we're being picked on and assumed upon that. And one example is like, I know a friend of mine, the way they walk because of their disability, they look and appear drunk. So right away, an officer goes after that person thinking that they've had too much drink. So they just ask for ID and wondering if they're all right and all. I mean, they're fine. It's just the way they walk.
Yeah.
And I mean, and like she said earlier, the thing about jail and all, it's costing us more. It's actually $140 a day to be in jail versus supportive housing of $31 a day to taxpayers of Ontario. And these were 2014, 2015 figures. One thing to invest in is more supportive housing unit in partnership with the Canadian Mental Health Association. Let them be the landlord aspect of taking care of the tenants, and then the public housing workers we have right now of Sudbury Housing, for example, could take care of the property management. That's something else to work on with the government as well. And I understand was downloaded to municipalities during Harris days. That's something to be considered to upload it back to provincial responsibilities. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I think we have to go back to the distant past. Like if somebody does something wrong, they should suffer for their action. And we shouldn't be the ones that suffer for it. And putting them in jail, for instance, well, we're suffering for it. But if you not just say this is the proper way, but put them on chains and make them work when they do something improper, that would be, in my opinion, improper. Because they're suffering for their actions. And we're doing something that is benefiting us. Either way, I won't argue about this, but I see far too many people who have done something wrong getting good things happen to them, which is not fair at all.
Okay.
That's a good segue to what I have to say, because there are some people who are doing those bad things and getting off with it. The police officers. Because what they're doing is illegal. If it's illegal, it's unlawful. Therefore, it's a crime. When you do that, you're committing a crime, but you're getting off with a crime. And I think there must be, whatever the recommendations we have, there must be consequences for officers who conduct carding, because it's illegal, it's unlawful, therefore it's a crime. They're getting off with a crime.
Okay.
Their job is not to commit a crime. They should be holding
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your Okay, gentlemen, thank you for your feedback. We've heard you. And I think we've had feedback from all of the tables. So I want to say thank you. Yes. Okay, you'll be the last speaker. No, you'll be the last one, and then we'll wrap it up for the evening because we do have to close the hotel room shortly.
Hello, everybody. I was in New Sudbury yesterday, and I got pulled over. I don't remember. I didn't see them coming towards me. There were cops in suits, and they drove me home. but they were nice to me. But some are nice and some are kind of rude. Be honest with that, because I've been going in that jail for about 28 years, off and on. 1 year here, 6 months here. Stupid charges. Like, I guess I'm not happy about it going to jail, but there's 28 years of my life going off and on in that jail. That's part of my life too. Got to tell you. They tell you what time to go to bed, what time to take a shower, what time you got to eat, and all this stuff. I don't like that. So I'm sick and tired of jail now. So I've been out of trouble almost 4 years now. So this is the longest I've ever been out, and I don't do. I used to be a big shoplifter, ripping off the stores and all that, but I don't do it no more. But I still get bugged once in a while by the cops. But I guess they're doing their job, I guess. But what I'm trying to say is half of my life is in that jail over there, so I don't like it at all. So, but I'll be honest with you, I don't do drugs, but I do drink off and on, and I do drink on the streets. Like, I'm just sitting on the sidewalk drinking a beer, and I'm not causing no trouble, but I'm admitting to you, yeah, I'll drink on the street, I'll drink down the road, because I think, I don't know, because it's the booze, you're not thinking right, your mind's like, you don't care, you know what I mean? That's why I said on here on the paper. Number 2 is I don't care, so I'm still walking down the road with a beer, I don't care. I cracked a beer in a liquor store, and I got in trouble for that too. So, eating at the bus stop, I'm kicked out of the bus stop for 30 days downtown for open liquor. Kicked out of the mall, open liquor. So I'm getting kicked all everywhere. So it doesn't matter. You can kick. Before you know, they'll probably kick me out of Sudbury too. So anyway, I just want to send that message to you guys. I think they drove me home because I was a little bit intoxicated. I was drinking at Tim Hortons.
Okay.
And I don't remember seeing them coming.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
So I want to thank you all for coming out. We appreciate your feedback. And thank you for being so open and honest and sharing your stories with us. So in terms of our next steps, this ends our public engagement phase. As Danielle mentioned, you can still provide your feedback on our website, online, but we thank you. We've heard your recommendations and your stories, and we appreciate your feedback on this issue. Thank you very much.